You!
I happen to be frying the dinner.
That's a big deal.
Jackie Gleason was famous for his big personality and passionate dedication to co-workers. However, he never invited her back. She shaped the honeymooners' early days. Without warning, she vanished. Gleason replaced her and ensured they never met again. Fans wondered what happened for decades. After years of questions and half-truths, the complete narrative is emerging, and it's not what anyone expected. Another remarkable woman played Alice Cramden before Audrey Meadows. The veteran comedian Pert Kelton has decades of theatrical and cinema experience. Born in 1907, she was well known when Jackie Gleason debuted Cavalcade of Stars, which would become The Honeymooners. Kelton matched Gleason's grandiose style with his cutting wit, fast fire delivery, and caustic humor. As the original Alice, she was a comedy partner, not a sidekick. The live studio audience felt their tension, snark, and timing. Viewers liked the vibe. Ralph Cramden shouted about sending Alice to the moon, but Kelton's Alice's biting comebacks and deadpan looks stole the moment. How authentic Pert Kelton felt, while not playing the doting housewife, made her portrayal stand out. She played a woman who had seen everything and could dish it back. Her vaudeville-inspired comedy was rapid, daring, and rough. It gave the show an honest rawness. Always protective of his artistic vision, Gleason influenced casting decisions. It was no chance that Kelton got the position. She gave the persona weight and edge, attracting attention. Just as the honeymooners was getting comfortable, something unusual happened. Pert Kelton abruptly left the show. Just gone, no goodbye or announcement, and her name rarely mentioned. Fans were confused by that sudden disappearance for years. She was an original component of Gleason's ensemble, helped establish the show's tone, and was doing her job well. What went wrong behind the scenes to force a clean break? Whatever it was, it started one of the most quietly controversial casting changes in early television history. The sudden departure of Pert Kelton from Cavalcade of Stars was explained. Health reasons. The People was told so, but few believed it. No illness, on-set issues, or visual signs of trouble had been reported. She was at her best weeks earlier. The timing was strange, and industry insiders knew more behind closed doors. One of many lists circulating in the early 1950s during America's anti-communist paranoia had Pert Kelton's name, but it was not announced. Her spouse Ralph Bell was questioned for Marxist ties. That alone tarnished her career. In 1950s television, guilt by association could ruin a career. Networks and marketers feared controversy, especially if it linked an artist to communism. Even though Kelton was never charged or tried, the whispers were enough. A producer's concern or boardroom debate might mean career success or exile. A formal blacklist was unnecessary for television, unlike film. Fear of reaction forced some performers to leave or be replaced. Gleason's show was growing fast, and the network didn't want trouble. Whether it was studio management, sponsors, or both, she was discreetly removed. Kelton was fired, and a new actress took her place. No debate, no letter. Officially, it was a fresh start. What happened next was even stranger. After the Red Scare subsided, several cast-out actors returned to TV and movies. Careers resumed, but Pert Kelton was never invited back to the honeymooners. Gleason never looked back, even when the program became a national phenomenon and her name had disappeared from debate. Jackie Gleason was the star and motor of the honeymooners. Gleason was involved in practically every element of the show's development, from casting to scripting to set design. It seems unlikely that Pert Kelton was fired as Alice Cramden without his consent, the least he would have known. Many feel he approved of the decision, considering his involvement in the show's creative direction. Why would Gleason, who valued loyalty and brought the same staff and actors from project to project. Fire someone who helped build the show's original chemistry? Self-preservation was the response for some industry insiders. Gleason's show was poised to break out as television entered its golden age. He didn't need controversy over his burgeoning empire. Even a whiff of linkage with a Red Scare suspect could have caused trouble, not only for the program, but throughout his career. Sponsors had huge power, and one frightened advertiser might spend millions on a headline. Staying ahead of public opinion required firm, even cold decisions. Gleason earned his reputation on audacity, unabashed, and grandeur. He was a strategist professionally. He knew what people liked and how bad publicity could sink a production. Several times reports claim that Kelton's departure was not discussed behind the scenes. After changing, the machine kept going. Gleason and the network found a substitute to change the tone and engage viewers. Change would not merely shield the show from controversy. It would change the honeymooners into the ones millions knew. However, some who had been watching since the Cavalcade of Stars days found the transition startling. A woman who helped establish the show was suddenly forgotten. Gleason, who was noted for reuniting old friends, never worked with Pert Kelton again, be it a commercial decision, boss pressure, or anything personal. The door was clearly closed and remained so. Pert Kelton quit the show, so producers had to be careful with who came next. Alice Cramden was no ordinary sidekick. She was the show's center. Audrey Meadows appears. She appeared very different from Kelton. Meadows was refined, while Kelton was rough. This Alice was gentler and more controlled, sometimes even nurturing. She still challenged Ralph Cramden, but in a more neutral manner. Despite its new chemistry, it functioned. Meadows was not hired randomly. Gleason reportedly rejected several actresses for the role because they were too attractive or lacked toughness. Audrey Meadows reportedly was rejected by Gleason after her audition, considered her too glamorous for the role. After sending a new headshot in regular clothes and no makeup, she got the callback. That detail revealed Gleason's character views. Someone who seemed to live in that tiny Brooklyn apartment was what he wanted. Meadows became that once she took the job. Audience response was immediate. Gleason and Meadows' connection changed the show's flow. Their disputes were amusing rather than nasty. Instead of street-smart companions, they became working-class husband and wife who loved each other despite the fighting. A national audience liked the unique flavor. Ralph and Alice became TV superstars as ratings rose. Many admirers saw Audrey Meadows as Alice Cramden, only version they knew. While the new combination was successful, the previous chapter's handling was disconcerting. Pert Kelton's influence on the character was rarely acknowledged in interviews or retrospectives. Gleason's intellect and Meadows' charm were lauded, but the woman who defined Alice was ignored. Some fans who watched the show from the beginning never forgot, while others would find old footage of Kelton's Alice and wonder why no one had mentioned her decades later. After being replaced on Cavalcade of Stars, Pert Kelton endured a long professional winter. She was once a fixture in film, radio, and early television, but her name no longer opened doors. She entered other entertainment industries with the same implicit suspicion that got her fired from the honeymooners. Projects dried up. Producers who admired her timing and talent started ignoring her. She had a subtle but noticeable career freeze without any public remarks or charges. The fall was hard to understand for Kelton, a talented actor. Starting in silent films, she seamlessly transitioned to talking pictures and live broadcasts. She has worked with comic icons and was known for her quick, consistent performance. She was now barred from important parts. Some of her colleagues who were caught in the political crossfire returned. Pert Kelton was barred from mainstream television, especially Gleason-related. Her disappearance was not complete. Kelton occasionally appeared in minor TV or theater roles. She made her biggest return in 1962 as Mrs. Peru in The Music Man. It was a little but memorable job that brought back memories. Fans from her honeymoon noticed. She still had that mischievous gleam in her eyes. Despite her many brilliant moments, her comeback never came. It was harder because Kelton kept her sentiments about the experience to herself. None of her campaigns were public. She did not publish a confession or seek revenge. Instead, she was elegant and professional. Some who knew her stated she was quite heartbroken about the lost job and how swiftly the profession had changed after an unjust exile. She helped establish the tone and strength of one of the most renowned sitcom characters, but another actress received the credit, attention, and legacy. Pert Kelton, 61, died in 1968. The public had already associated Audrey Meadows with Alice Cramden. Nationwide reruns of The Honeymooners attracted new admirers who had no idea anyone else had portrayed the role. Kelton was rarely mentioned in official show history. Those who saw her in the original run and afterward learned her story never forgot her screen presence. Her demotion from one of television's most promising platforms is a classic example of how politics, fear, and time can remove even the greatest talents from history. In the decades after The Honeymooners, Jackie Gleason remained one of television's most original and powerful personalities. His comedic timing, improvisational skills, and character creation made him famous. Despite his success, Pert Kelton was rarely mentioned in accolades, interviews, and retrospectives. Despite her key role in establishing Alice Cramden, she was not invited to reunions, cast retrospectives, or nostalgic tours of Gleason's television empire. Entertainment historians began asking questions over time. Why did she never return? Particularly when the blacklist lost its bite. By the mid-1960s, numerous blacklisted actors returned to screen. Networks and studios had become bolder, and the public had warmed to politically hazardous figures. Gleason had reclaimed creative control over much of his work. That was the time to bring her back or recognize her accomplishments. The gesture never came. Gleason may have felt torn personally, according to several biographers. Known for being complex, warm to friends, cautious with his emotions, prone to snap decisions, and fiercely protective of his legacy. It may have been too long before Kelton's name was again mentioned. Reopening that chapter may have seemed superfluous or hazardous to him. Only he knew. For someone who formed his identity around control, revisiting a time that entailed outside influence or hard decisions may not have suited his story. Final years for Pert Kelton were quiet. She occasionally appeared in film and television in modest roles, but she never reached her former heights. She never gave a long interview about her honeymoon, and her friends claim she preferred to look forward. The sting of being replaced and obliterated lingered. For decades, her name was forgotten, except by die-hard admirers and media historians who dug deeper. When Jackie Gleason died in 1987, the Honeymooners were memorialized in reruns, box sets, and specials. Audrey Meadows was hailed as the ultimate Alice, and the black-and-white episodes were considered comedy classics. Pert Kelton's contribution to that foundation was unsaid. No retrospective or official recognition acknowledged her significance. Later, when digital archives and fan networks rediscovered previous broadcasts, her performance as the original Alice was recognized. Her legacy was only temporarily buried. Her story added bittersweetness to one of television's most legendary shows for those who heard it. Woman who helped birth Alice Cramden remained. She was ignored during Hollywood's darkest and most terrifying moment. The story of Pert Kelton and Jackie Gleason goes beyond a TV show casting change. This is about how terror influenced a generation of entertainers. It shows how swiftly reputations can be ruined, how silently careers can be changed, and how a few hands may change someone's life with a single decision. Hurt Kelton pioneered. She shaped one of television's most iconic characters' rhythm and attitude before being fired when the program caught fire. She may be less well-known today, but she shaped early American television. Jackie Gleason became famous, a television legend whose work continues to influence. However, cutting links with Kelton, whether by him, the network, or a mix of circumstances, left a mark on her career and the Honeymooners' tale. Fans believed the actress switch was creative or personal for decades, oblivious of the broader causes. After the truth is revealed, the show's early chapters become more complex and human. The story matters because of this. It's more than TV nostalgia or filling in a footnote. It honors those who built something remarkable. Even if their names were not on the marquee, it is about recognizing that behind every act, performance, and household name are stories of struggle and sacrifice, and occasionally wrong. She failed, but Pert Kelton survived. She disappeared as circumstances changed and terror won. However, history repeats itself. Her work is finally being recognized decades later. Her precise delivery, timing, and ability to match Gleason's fire. Everything was there from the start. Thanks to those who kept asking what occurred, that early chapter is finally being reopened with clarity, truth, and the respect she earned but never received.